What's up guys, this is SkyTech Freak and today we're going to be looking at the Huawei MatePad Pro for an early review. I've been using this device now for a few days and I've been doing some of the stuff that it is actually made for, like taking notes, doing a little bit of drawing digitally, as well as obviously using playing some games, using the browser, and basically other tasks like that. So let's quickly get into some of the more important parts of what makes this tablet different from any other tablet. So things like the Notes app, which is important with the stylus. So I think one of the major questions that we get asked often is basically how good is the latency on this pen, and we know that this pen has over 4,000 levels of pressure sensitivity. It has tilt support and things like that as well. But how good is sort of the latency on it, because Huawei claims that the latency is actually really low. And while I think it's impressive that the pen does sort of like perform well, I do think like taking notes on this is a little difficult, because I always feel like it's trying to catch up when I'm writing. It's trying to catch up with my actual hand. So when I try to write something, and again, you'll forgive my handwriting for this, but if I try to type in the quick brown fox, what tends to happen basically, and I'm writing through the screen, so my handwriting's even worse than normal, but basically what happens is, if I'm writing like a word, and maybe I'm trying to write an I, but I write in cursive, and so my writing's actually quite fast, what tends to happen is, when I don't see that the letter is actually showing up on the screen, I sometimes like try to write the letter again, because it's just in muscle memory that if I don't see it happening immediately, I'm like retyping the word, and then the words come out looking kind of messy. Some of them have like twice the same alphabet, but like the second time it's a little smaller, or like, it's just much better to be able to see the words you're writing. But if you write slowly, or if you're used to sort of taking notes digitally, and this is something that you've been used to, I mean, I don't see this being like a huge deal breaker for someone that does want to take notes on this. And apart from sort of just taking notes, the latency is also, like, I can see that the latency also shows up, because I have been taking some sketches on Adobe Photoshop Sketch. These are some of the drawings that I've done. So I'm actually a huge fan of the game Super Smash Brothers. So this is just one of the Captain Falcon drawings I had done. And apart from this, and all of this I've made on the device over the last few days. So here's a Jigglypuff I had made. Here's a Kirby. Min Min came out the other day. I made a quick sketch of Min Min. This is Incineroar. There's a Diddy Kong here that was also made on a similar tablet, if I can just find that. There you go. And here's a Tyranitar that I had actually started on a different device but completed on this device. And so, as you can see clearly, I'm not like an expert artist or something like that, but I've obviously spent a lot of time drawing on this tablet. And again, I have some of the same problems with like latency and things like that. I for some reason feel like the latency is a lot better. It's a lot better on sort of Adobe Sketch. So I don't actually feel like I'm necessarily catching up as much as I do on other devices. But I also feel like just the accuracy of where you're trying to, and this might be just from switching from a medium like paper to digitally, but I have also drawn on a Samsung Chromebook Pro, and I actually didn't feel the sort of accuracy to be as bad as it is in this. Now, I'm not saying it's like terribly inaccurate, but it's a few millimeters, maybe not even millimeters, but like a small fraction away from where you actually put the pen down and where you actually want the input to be registered. So like in normal tasks, this will not bother you at all. Basically, wherever you think you're putting the pen, it's exactly going to go there. But like, again, if you're trying to draw accurately, sometimes you're going to mess up, but then you just have to like sort of recalibrate yourself. So if you're drawing something and it's showing up like 2 millimeters lower, you just need to like move your pen up and expect it to sort of start drawing that line from like a little below. Then it's just a recalibration thing, but it is something to think about if you're getting this tablet specifically for like drawing or artwork, or like I said, note taking, when I spoke about that, note latency and things like that. So yeah, these are just some of the things. Another thing that's pretty cool about this tablet is if you lock it and you double tap, obviously the screen opens. But if you have locked the tablet and sort of pick up the pen and then tap on the device, it opens up the Note app, which is actually pretty cool. Now you'll notice that the Note app is black, and that's because I've enabled the dark theme in EMUI. I think that's a little bit annoying because like I think most people prefer to have the dark theme, but nobody wants a notes app where the background is black and then you're writing in white. I think everyone would really just prefer the opposite, where the note app at least stays with a white background and then you're writing with either black or blue or something like you're used to. I don't really like this. I'm sure if you go into settings, there's a way to maybe change specifically the Note app while keeping EMUI in dark mode. But yeah, so that's all I wanted to necessarily talk about with the pen. For other inputs, it's basically the same thing. So apps that can detect stylus, like this one, won't let me sort of draw with my hand when I have the stylus connected, and it can register the stylus because it connects via Bluetooth. Yeah, so I wanted to show you guys that if you stop using Bluetooth, now of course the pen no longer works, and neither will the keyboard work because they're both connected via Bluetooth. And then as soon as you turn Bluetooth back on, both of these things will get registered again in a second. There we go, it's connected to both of them. But yeah, so that's what I want to talk about about the pen. Some cool things to keep in mind. You can slightly unscrew it if you want the sort of touch input to be a little stronger when you tap. It's an accurate pen, but sometimes it has more latency than something like the Apple Pencil, of course. And that might also have to do something with like the display. Like this is a 60 hertz display. The Apple Pro, the iPad Pros have higher refresh rates. They have 120 hertz, I believe. But yeah, you can also, from a lock screen, quickly, if you just need to tap in something, go into the stylus and immediately start taking notes. Charges magnetically, as I said in the last one. When you just plop it on, it magnetically connects and charges. Works via Bluetooth. So that's everything I want to talk about that is stylus specific. Keyboard, there's really not that much to say except for the fact that it's really convenient to have it here. Now, I would have preferred if there was also sort of like a trackpad down here, because I mean, I feel like it's a little bit inconvenient to keep having to tap and then type. It would be better to just sort of have another way to interact with a cursor or something like that on the keyboard itself. And this is something that would have been more problematic on a bigger screen, but I feel like just because of the size of this tablet and because of how close your fingers are to the screen when you're actually using it, it's not that tedious to sort of go anywhere on screen and quickly touch that in. I was expecting it to be a lot more irritating, and I was expecting myself to miss the trackpad a lot more, but it's actually not that bad. It's very doable, so you can quickly go onto the screen. And this is, like I said, Huawei has taken more than a little inspiration from iPad Pro first generation. So even though the new Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pro has a trackpad, the older one didn't. And that's the one I think that they're trying to mimic here with the Apple Pencil and the M Pencil and this whole sort of look that's going on. So yeah, as far as accuracy and typing, etc. with the keyboard, like I said, I found it to be super accurate for how small it is. Again, this is just a keyboard on a 10.8 inch device, 10.8 inch screen device. So don't expect you to have like the biggest hand room, and I do have pretty small hands, so this might be personal as well. So if you have bigger hands, it might be more problematic, but I think that the way they've spaced these keys out, every key is really where you expect it to be, so you don't really miss out. And I've seen basically devices and keyboards that have smaller backspace and enter keys, and those really used to irritate me because I'd always hit like the plus button right next to it or something like that. But that doesn't like seem to happen on this keyboard for some reason. Maybe the way they've spaced it is pretty accurate. So when I want to press enter, I usually end up pressing enter. When I want to press backspace, I'm able to do it. And otherwise, typing speed is pretty high. The travel on these keys is pretty good for how slim this case is. I can just give you a quick look at how slim this actual case is, and you can see it's like the keyboard part is at least recessed, and then that's how much travel you have with each key. But yeah, again, I mentioned this in the unboxing video as well, where I got this from the UAE, so there are Arabic markings which don't really mean anything to me because I don't speak Arabic. I don't have to input Arabic characters. But if you're wondering if the keyboard that you buy in the UAE does have Arabic markings, it does, even though the website doesn't necessarily state it, and nowhere on the website or sort of even on the box for the keyboard you get a picture of like the English keyboard only. You don't really expect there to be Arabic keys, and I would have preferred there not to be because I don't have any use. But if someone out there is looking for the Arabic keys on their keyboard, then you know that they're here. So that's all I wanted to talk about with the device. I mean, as far as other things like performance go, this is running the Kirin 990, so I've been able to like speed through asphalt, and there's plenty of videos out there that will talk about performance and like how it's performing in game and things like that. So it's really just a top of the line chip. So anything you can expect maybe it's like very comparable to the Snapdragon 855, 865 and things like that. So basically you're not going to run into any hiccups using this device. As far as performance goes, we can take a quick look at both the cameras as well. So this is what the selfie camera looks like, which is 8 megapixels, and it's actually a pretty good camera. So you can see I'm on that. You can see me through the device here, or you can switch it around, and then this is a 13 megapixel camera, and then you can get really up close with the F key on my Drevo keyboard. We can take a photo of that. But yeah, again, really good cameras. The rear camera, I don't see anyone using too much because again, it's a tablet. It's probably not something you want to pull out as your primary device. You'll probably be using your phone a lot more than that. But if you have to, if you're in a situation where that comes up, it's a perfectly serviceable camera, pretty good actually. And we all know Huawei makes really good sensors, so you can expect both cameras to be extremely good. Other than that, we can take a quick look at About tablet. So you know it's running EMUI version 10.1.0 and then Android version 10 as well. And lastly, something that is important to note, and this is something that I found a little bit annoying, is that when you use a tablet of this size, and this is something that's like across all Android tablets, right? So when you're using a browser, it'll necessarily go ahead and like open the it opens the mobile version of apps, and that's a little annoying to see on the tablet because they're made for like Android phones, and there is a way in Chrome to sort of go into settings and then change to open all websites as in their desktop mode, but like you shouldn't really have to go ahead and do that. And in Huawei's browser, I haven't even been able to necessarily find that option, but in Chrome I know there's a flag to do it. So now the question comes up is like, oh, but you're talking about Chrome, but we keep hearing about how Huawei doesn't have any integration for any Google apps and services, right? And so yeah, I think this video is getting a little long to talk about that, but I do want to make a video on how you can go ahead and like install Google services. Let me just show you quickly that I do have Google services installed. So when I sort of swipe up from here, I have Google Assistant, and Google Assistant is working perfectly. There's nothing wrong with it. It's of course not managing to pick up what I'm saying right now through the mic, but again, it's something that works. Here we have Chrome that works. My Gmail is working perfectly as well. I can show you that I have the Play Store, of course, installed, and that's important because let me show you that I can also install apps, and not just any apps. I can install Google apps from the Play Store. So let's sort of open this up. Clearly, I already have Assistant and all of which I installed through the Play Store itself. But as you can see, we're working perfectly fine here. And so that's basically what I wanted to talk about, the Google app integration, and I'll show you how to do it. Apart from that, if you're not someone that's like super savvy in terms of like downloading APKs and getting around things like that, the Huawei app gallery is really not that impressive. So you don't want to bank on trying to find all your favorite apps on the Huawei app gallery. Only like really major apps and app developers are on the app gallery, but they also have another app that they released recently called Petal Search. And here's Petal Search. Basically, it'll give you news and all that it thinks you want to see, but like, I mean, it has no information on me, so it's just going to pull stuff from like Indian news and give it to me, or like UAE news. But you can sort of like search for apps here, and when you search for these apps, if there's developers that have made their apps freely available or that are ready to provide the APKs, it'll sort of pull those APKs from the internet and install it onto your device. So that's a lot more helpful than the app gallery. Petal Search really works as like, you know, if you have free apps that you necessarily want to go, or it can help you find like alternative Android marketplaces for apps and things like that. But yeah, if you really are looking for a way to get Google installed onto your phone, including things like Google Pay services, etc., it's really easy to do it. That's going to be my next video. I'm going to show you. It's probably going to be a much shorter video than this sort of first impressions review video was. But yeah, I think I've sort of covered everything I wanted to talk about in this device. It's really a beautiful looking device. Let me give you guys a quick overview again of it with the keyboard case off. It's this aluminum, well-built, super small bezel. As you can see, I don't think there's any tablet that has smaller bezels than this. I think it currently boasts the smallest bezels, but of course, with those bezels, you also get a punch hole camera with that slight display discoloration around it, which is a little bit annoying. Like I said, though, amazing screen, really bright, really good colors. slightly less deep blacks because it's not an OLED display. But yeah, overall, I'm really, really happy with this tablet. I really enjoyed using it. I've enjoyed drawing on it. I've enjoyed taking notes on it. I've enjoyed playing games on it, and I've really not run into anything. The only small issues I've had are with things like web browsing, because it won't open desktop sites, and navigating, mobile sites on a bigger screen is a little more annoying. And of course, like I said, having to touch the screen when you're using the keyboard and switch between the two of those is a little bit irritating. But of course, when you just want to jump onto your bed and like watch Netflix or something like that, again, Netflix not something you can get on this device until you install the Play Store to then go ahead and get Netflix. But yeah, if you want to just watch a video or a movie or something, or just sitting in bed, this is a light tablet. It's something you can just easily throw on if you want to quickly take notes in class or something like that. If you're still in college or school, it's something you can easily do. Again, taking great inspiration from the iPad Pro, almost to a fault, I think. But it's not something you can knock it on, because that's a great product. And as a result, this has been a really great product with really good internals and really good performance. And so yeah, that's been my review of the Huawei MatePad Pro. And look forward to my next video about how to install these Google apps and Google services on Huawei devices, specifically the MatePad Pro. And if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, and if you have any questions, leave a comment. And if you want to see more content like this about the MatePad Pro, about any of the other devices on my channel, sorry about that, feel free to subscribe. It'll really help me out, and you'll get to see more stuff that you like. So that's all for now. Thank you.